Welcome to the Great Loop Radio podcast, brought to you by America's Great Loop Cruisers Association. We're dedicated to sharing Great Loop information and inspiration with those actively cruising, planning for, or dreaming about a Great Loop adventure. I'm Kim Russo. I'm the director of AGLCA. We've got lots of loopers who really like to give back or pay it forward. And today we're going to give you a great example of that. Our guests are going to be some of our gold loopers who are volunteering at Florida State Parks right now. So we'll bring them into the conversation in just a minute. First, I want to take a moment to recognize and thank our Admiral sponsors who support AGLCA at the highest level. They are Curtis Stokes and Associates, Great Loop Yacht Sales, Passage Maker Trawler Fest, Skipper Bob Publications, and Waterway Guide Media. As always, we encourage our listeners to support these businesses that support the Great Loop. And with the sponsor recognition done, I'd like to officially welcome Tim and Diane Vandersall to the Great Loop Radio podcast. Tim and Diane, thanks for joining me.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great to have you here today. As I mentioned in the intro, you are gold loopers, but let's start off. Just tell us a little bit about yourselves and your boating experience.
Yeah, we're Tim and Diane Vandersall from Ohio. We had a little bit of boating experience in Ohio on Lake Erie. I did a lot of fishing on Lake Erie, had some fishing boats and smaller boats. You know, the biggest boat I ever had before this was like 25 feet. And then Diane did some houseboating on a small lake in Ohio. But we didn't have a whole lot of boating experience before we took on this Great Loop adventure. And we did start doing jet ski adventures for vacations back in 2008 or so. And we would hop on our jet ski and throw some small bags in there and then travel. Like, for example, we did the North Channel one year.
Wow.
Circumnavigated that, and we would stay at bed and breakfast along the way or hotels and get back to the same starting point, you know, mini loops, if you will. And before long that started hurting our necks and backs and like probably need to get something bigger. So then we discovered the Great Loop after that.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you went all in and sold the house and everything before getting the boat, correct?
That is correct. So we're sitting aboard our main ship right now, which is our only house. And we sold everything, which was quite an endeavor. Got rid of all our stuff, which after 60 years, you do accumulate a lot of stuff. So we had like 100 trips to the thrift store and Goodwill and gave a lot of stuff away, garage sales, and a big dumpster in the yard for a month or so.
Yeah, but you know, really gutsy to do that when you hadn't had big boat experience. So I love that about the two of you. Tell us, so you finished the loop and obviously continued to boat. Wilma May is your home, but tell us when you did the Great Loop, you know, started and crossed your wake and obviously then continued on.
Well, we started the loop in Alabama, Goose Pond. It's a side trip really on the Tennessee River, but we bought the boat down there and we left Goose Pond on November 1st of 2022 and immediately took a wrong turn and went to Chattanooga to do more of a side trip. And then it's just beautiful, the Tennessee River. And we finished the loop. It took us about 366 days. It took us a year to complete the loop. And we finished in 2023, right before the fall rendezvous. And we enjoyed every minute of it. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and we've mentioned that Wilma May is a main ship, but give us a little bit more about her.
Yeah, so we kind of discovered the loop back in 2014 or so. I know that because that's when I bought the book by Captain John, BYOB, Bring Your Own Boat. And I read that book, and I was still quite a few years off from retirement. But reading through it, it was a way to me, his book summarized how to do the loop frugally. And I was all over that. So I showed Diane the idea and she seemed to be on board with it. And before long, we started looking at boats, and Captain John said that the cheapest way to do it was on a sailboat. So we started looking at sailboats, and we discovered pretty quickly, at least the sailboats we could afford and the one of the size that could do the loop, They were just too small.
Too small. I mean, too tight for us. Just I thought I love him dearly, but it would be hard to be just little things.
So the next thing was, well, maybe a catamaran might be better. You know, if she gets mad at me, I could go to the other side. But the catamarans that we could afford were, again, too small, and we just didn't think it was a good fit. And then we went to the third thing on Captain John's list was trawlers. And when we were on vacation in Washington State, we went to Vancouver Island, and I had set up a viewing of our first trawler, which was a Krogan manatee.
She's viewing of a trawler, yes.
Yeah, and we went over there and saw it, and Diane fell in love with it, wanted to buy it on the spot.
Still love them.
And I was like, well, I don't know how you get it over to the loop. I don't think it's a good boat to bring around Panama Canal. So we did not buy that one, but it started our quest into trawlers, and we started getting more serious about it. When we got back to Ohio, we started getting educated about trawlers and made a list of what we needed, what we wanted. And then we started looking at different trawlers, and you know, some of them just didn't meet the requirements, and we knock them off the list. And then we discovered mainships. And that one, mainships pretty much checked most of the boxes that we had on our spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm. And which mainship model did you get?
The 400, mainship 400, one with A. Yes, she. We were looking at 390s for a long time, and we just got really lucky. Tim found her on a Craigslist of all places. It was a former looper, older man, and
actually, it was a listing on the forum. The gentleman said, "I'm not computer literate, but a buddy of mine's putting this boat for sale on Craigslist." And at first we thought it might have been a scam.
Yeah, we thought it was a scam because it was the price lower than other ones.
Yeah, it was a good price, and
we were so excited.
We looked at it and said, "Could this be real?" And we called the guy in Alabama, really nice gentleman, and I ended up driving down there. We made a full price offer. It was back when boats were going like fast and furious,
right?
And you had to jump on them that day. So I jumped in the car the next day, and I made him a full price offer, and did the survey a month later. We ended up with a boat.
And the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your cruising preferences on the Great Loop. And by that, I mean, you know, what speed did you like to travel? How many miles per day did you like to do? Anchorages versus marinas, that kind of thing.
We're definitely a slow mover. By choice, we have a single engine. So we like to travel about 7 knots. And most of the time, and we just to save on fuel too. We could probably go a little bit faster, but it just saves on fuel. So, and we like to see things and move slow. We don't like long days. We found that we preferred, 30 miles, maybe 40 it's good for us. It's just long enough day. The long days really take a lot out of you, I think. And we found that we definitely prefer the shorter ones. We started the loop thinking we would anchor out a lot more than we did. We thought we'd do 75% anchoring out, and it turned into more marinas or free walls for sure with the dog. And we also like to see the towns more. So it seemed it made more sense for us to spend more time at marinas.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tim.
We found that when you tie up to a wall, you just have a lot more time to, or a dock, a lot more time to visit the town. We could, throw your bikes onto the dock and go for a spin. You can take our dog Maggie for a walk easily, and you don't have to make a hour-long dinghy ride out of it. It was just way more convenient, and saved a lot of time, so you could do the things you wanted to do when you visited.
Yeah, and we preferred to stay at the towns if we could. Time and weather 2 nights if we could. So you had the one travel day, and you get there and maybe eat out and rest, but then you get the whole next day to explore the town, and we really enjoyed that. Trying to give it 2 days if we could.
But we did enjoy our anchoring time too. We it's very beautiful usually, and you see a lot of wildlife and things like that, and so we enjoyed the anchoring. It just was more convenient with Maggie to just stay at the docks more often than not.
Yeah. And I hear that from a lot of people, that they intend to anchor a lot and then find that there's just a lot of convenience to tying up. But for those who enjoy anchoring, there is plenty of opportunity, and it's great to do a mix of both. I know this is always the hardest question when people ask it to me, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. It's hard to name highlights on the Great Loop because it's a trip of highlights, but what were some of your favorite things or favorite places? Or you can take that question in any direction you'd like.
Yeah, we had a discussion about this one. I tend to look at it as like what places were the highlights, and Diane looks at it as more of what are the
Like things that stick out the
experiences.
most.
Yeah, well, give us both of those.
Yeah, so I'll go with the places. So, we started in the Tennessee River. The Tennessee River is beautiful. We love to actually spend more time up there, get all the way to Knoxville and stuff. But as you come down to Mobile and Florida, we spent 5 of our 12 months in Florida, and we kind of got behind the pack when we did so, but we just loved it down here, and we still do.
We took our time. We loved it. Yeah,
we're here now. So Florida just has a lot to offer, especially when you can watch the news and see the blizzards up in Ohio, things like that. But St. Augustine, St. John's River was a great side trip that we did. The Dry Tortugas Park was amazing. And where we're at right now, Bahia Honda is definitely one of our highlights.
We love the Keys. I fell in love with the Keys.
And then on up to the East Coast. I mean, everywhere we stopped, we pretty much loved.
We did.
There's not a town that we like, I don't ever want to go back there. So
the standing joke was, what's your favorite place? The last place we were,
Right.
I tend to love that.
Yeah, and that's the most common question we get is, what was your favorite thing on the loop?
Your favorite place? Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard to pick them.
You can't name it.
But how about you, Diane? What were your highlights? Talking not places, but
some places,
experiences, or people, or go ahead, tell us what they were.
It was the people, meeting the people, the wonderful folks that were looping as well, and also just people traveling on their boats. We met so many lifelong friends that we kept tabs with. And one of the cool things about doing the loop is you cross paths with people, and then you travel, and you're maybe not traveling the same pace, because Tim and I are a lot slower. We like to stay places longer. And then you see them again 6 months later somewhere else, and just the joy of seeing friends again. We really developed some wonderful friendships and met beautiful people. And then the other thing, I guess the highlight would be wildlife, like the dolphins every day never gets old. We always say, like, it never gets old seeing the dolphins and the birds. And one of the highlights was when we were on our way to Staten Island. We hit a storm, but right before that storm, there was a big whale came up and breached. And,
wow!
At first, we thought it was I'm like, I think I saw a big dolphin. I told Tim, like, I saw something out there. So like, maybe it was a whale. And sure enough, as soon as we looked, it came and breached. And we wondered what that meant, because we always say dolphins for good luck. And the storm hit after we saw the whales. So we thought maybe the whales were a warning.
Yeah. So the main topic we want to talk about today, you have found a really interesting and unique opportunity where you've spent a good part of this winter, and that is volunteering at some of the Florida state parks. So tell us what parks you've been to and how long you've stayed, and kind of, how that came about.
Yeah, so we last year we stopped at Bahia Honda for our first time, and stayed at the marina for a few days. And Bahia Honda has a campground, so we started walking around the campground, met some of the campers and the RVs and stuff, and we found out that they do camp host, which we'd never heard of, but basically they're allowed to camp there for free, and they volunteer their services in exchange. So we wondered if they did that for boaters, and they said, we think so, but just contact the parks and find out. So over the next year, as we were looping, I started emailing the people here at Bahia Honda, and they said, yeah, we do that, and here's how you go about it. And we still weren't convinced that that's what we wanted to do, because we're retired and we don't have anywhere to go, so we didn't know what we were going to do after we finished looping. But as the year went along, we thought, okay, we're going to finish the loop. We're no longer going to have a purpose in life. So what should we do? And it's like, okay, we got so much from this trip. Everywhere we went, we can give back a little bit as we go. So we committed to the two parks, which I think we'll talk about here in a minute, but we committed to doing 3 months of volunteer work while we entered our next chapter in our lives.
Yeah. And that's amazing, to give back in that way, and so much needed. So tell us which two parks and how long at each?
We did Caladesi Island for 8 weeks. The Florida state parks require 8 weeks. And the other one is Bahia down in the Keys. The only reason we're here 6 weeks, just because of hurricane season. There were a lot of volunteers here before that. So when we got in, they knew that we have to kind of scoot up.
Yeah.
The line.
So let's go ahead. Let's take a minute and play a message from some of our sponsors, because I want to come back and I want to hear more about the specific parks and the kind of tasks that you do as a volunteer. So we'll be back in a moment. The Ditch Navigation app is your own personal harbor pilot, ensuring safe passage on the water. Powered by AI and fueled by AIS data, Ditch provides instant local knowledge on your phone, laptop, or other mobile device. Wherever you go, Ditch calculates your smart path, showing the routes that experienced boaters use. Ditch is perfect for finding a safe path through tricky shoaling waters and can also be used to explore routes boaters take to find new anchorages or secret fishing grounds. For more information, visit ditchnavigation.com. The Ditch app is available on the Apple App Store and Google Play.
Did you know that every mile of the Great Loop is covered by both the Waterway Guide and Skipper Bob? Use them to plan your Great Loop cruise and learn about the places you can visit. In the cockpit, important navigation info is always ready at your side, plus marina listings, anchorages, services, and so much more. Each Skipper Bob and Waterway Guide is updated yearly, and waterwayguide.com and skipperbob.net keep you current with navigation alerts, cruising news, fuel prices, and special deals. With the Waterway Guide and Skipper Bob at the helm, you'll always be on course. Order yours today at the AGLCA ship store at greatloop.org. Waterway Guide and Skipper Bob are proud sponsors at the Admiral level with AGLCA.
We're back on the Great Loop Radio podcast. My guests today are Tim and Diane Vandersall. They are Gold Loopers who are giving back in a pretty incredible way. They have been volunteering for several months at some of the Florida state parks. So we were just starting to kind of get into that story. So tell us, let's start at Caladesi. Hope I'm saying that right. That's the first one you went to. Tell us where that park is located and what that park is like.
Yeah, so Caladesi is on a barrier island just right across from Dunedin, Florida, on the Gulf Coast. And it's accessible only by ferry, by your own boat, or at low tide, you can actually walk from Clearwater Beach. But you better plan that properly because you might get stranded.
People have gotten stranded, yes.
Yeah. Caladesi has a 3-mile long beach, and the ferry runs when it's not windy or really rainy. The ferry runs every half hour or hour, so it brings people from the honeymoon island, they call it, and about every half hour, and 50 people at a time come over, mainly for the beaches, but the beaches are beautiful. There's not a lot of people on them, a lot of shells, lots of shells. Wildlife. They also have hiking trails, and they have kayaking trails through the mangroves, which we love, and fishing over there, a small snack bar. And it's kind of a pristine area in the middle of kind of a busy stretch of the Gulf. There's a lot of cities and towns along that,
Clearwater,
that stretch. Yeah.
So as volunteers there, what were the types of tasks that you were doing during your volunteer hours?
It was, we did clearing the trails. We did a lot of beach cleanup with a lot of trash would come into the island for some reason on the shores and during flooding. We helped repair the boardwalks, like the walkways, pressure washing, cleaning bathrooms, it was a lot of physical work, but worth it. It was very rewarding for sure to see progress, and basically anything they asked us to do, we would do. We helped.
Yeah, sometimes you're carrying a 5-gallon bucket along the beach, picking up, small pieces of plastic and things like that, or whatever washes ashore. Other times you're like getting into the mangroves and finding bigger pieces of trash that came in during a storm. And it was pretty physical. I mean, we sometimes just came home to the boat exhausted. From the work.
It's hot.
It was fun work. It was rewarding.
We knew it was good for us to do, for sure. And
you kind of discover how wasteful we are in America. I don't know if a lot of this stuff got thrown into the woods or into the water or just blew in, but boy, there's a lot of plastic that ends up on the beaches at Caladesi that we have to pick up.
And the one thing I like that was eye-opening that we witnessed firsthand was, the grocery bags, the paper grocery bags that not paper, but the plastic ones. We saw there was a beautiful bird, not a cormorant, a hinga bird, and it had gotten caught in one of those bags, and it was so sad because we kept trying to rescue it, but we couldn't get it to rescue it, but it was wrapped around its leg and its neck, and so every time we found a bag on the beach or a fishing line, I'm like, we saved a bird.
So is there a requirement to how many hours you work?
It's 24 hours per site, so per our boats, and we can split it up between the two of us. It's
per
week. So it's usually like 3 days a week. At Caladesi, we were able to split it up a little bit like throughout the week, but just 24 hours between the two of us.
And so you live aboard your boat, which you do all the time, but in this case, the boat is docked at the state park. So what was that like? Because I would imagine it was kind of quiet.
Very quiet. They have a nice marina there. It has electric, it has water, and there is a snack bar, as I said, that's open when the ferry runs. We didn't really use that too much, but there are no showers, so you have to have your own shower facility. Unless you wanted to go to
the outdoor shower.
The outdoor shower. And it was very secluded. So
no laundry.
During the day, on the weekends, you might get a lot of day runners coming over to explore the beaches and stuff and have their picnics. But they pretty much cleared out every evening. So every night you just had that to yourselves. There were 2 rangers that lived on the island. They have housing back in the woods, but you really didn't see them in the evenings.
Away or 2 miles away. So it was remote. And
very remote.
Beautiful. Our first night there, we were like, everybody was gone. It was just me and Tim happened to be sick, and it was so almost surreal to have the whole place to yourself. It was quite beautiful.
But it was kind of fun because we posted on the forum about how nice it was over there, and we probably had 20 loopers come in during our visit there, and wanted to see what all the fuss was about. And I think each and every one of them really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So any depth issues? Because you mentioned that you can actually walk across at low tide. So of course, for boaters, that raises some red flags. Any size, depth issues in terms of what kind of boats can get into the marina there?
There were some big ones that came in. There was at least a 42 or 43 foot Hatteras, I think, that came in there. And someone with the 5 foot draft came in. You want to come in at high tide. Definitely the channel is narrow going into Caladesi. So you definitely want to be high tide. We actually went aground our first time going in there. We got off, but it was the first time. They say it'll happen. But you definitely want to be careful at the tide. But during low tide,
we made a mistake of following a note. I think it was on Navionics that somebody gave the route to come in. You turn around this buoy and you just follow it at 212 degrees. Or better yet, if a ferry comes by, just follow the ferry. So
don't do that.
Sure enough, we were coming by that marker and the ferry was right ahead of us. And I sped up a little bit to follow them. And I thought this would be great. And all of a sudden we came to a grounding halt.
Luckily on mud.
Our first grounding of the whole loop.
Yeah, but it was no one else had any trouble really. It's pretty straightforward. Just follow that channel.
So don't follow the ferry. Follow the 212 degrees.
Good advice.
Yeah.
You know, Diane, you mentioned there's no laundry, so you are kind of living without a lot of resources. Obviously,
Yeah.
you said you have electric and all that, but so when you needed provisions or needed to do the laundry, did you untie Wilma May and go to another marina, or did you dinghy, or did you take the ferry?
We dinghied for laundry usually. We take our dinghy. It was very windy. The Florida winds have been pretty rough this winter, but we would dinghy when we could, and dinghied across the Dunedin and would go to a laundromat there for laundry. And then for groceries, sometimes we'd take the ferry across, then we'd have to Uber to the grocery store, Uber back to the ferry. And then, so it was definitely a process. It was not easy to get provisions.
Yeah.
We actually met some locals that were very sweet and kind and would bring us, they'd call us and say, we're coming out. And they had a fishing boat and they would bring us groceries if we needed something.
Oh, how nice. Yeah.
Very nice.
Well, so you spent 8 weeks there. Oh, so go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, there's one story. There's a historical home site on the island, the Shar home. And there's a book about it. Yesteryear, We Lived in Paradise. I love the book, and it tells the history of this woman, Myrtle, that grew up there. And she took a wooden boat from age like 9 to 8th grade, rowed herself across that 4-mile channel to the mainland of Dunedin to go to school every day.
Wow.
Until 8th grade, only missed 2 days. And every time we were out in the dinghy and it was a little rough or we had to take an Uber ride, it was hot, I thought of her rowing across, 8 miles a day.
Wow.
I thought, well, if she can do it at age 10, we can do it. So
did you row or did you use the engine?
fortunately, the motor ran.
Yeah.
Right. There you go. Thank goodness for motors, right?
Yeah.
So you spent your 8 weeks there, and now you are at Bahia in the Keys. So tell us a little bit about that park. Tell us a little bit more specifically where it's located and what the park is like.
Bahia. It's south of Marathon, so it's kind of in the middle of the Keys. I like to say, pretty much, it seems to be in the middle of the Keys, and it's a beautiful park. If you haven't been, really, you should go see it. It's
about an hour north of Key West, and it's just on the southern end of the 7-mile bridge. If you've ever come down here,
there's a lot of history here. Bahia is Spanish for deep bay, so that's what the name means. And when they were building Flagler's Bridge, the railroad bridge, it's such a deep bay, they had so much trouble. It took them years, like 2 or 3 years, to build that section of the bridge because of the deep water. It's definitely a special park. There's camping here. There's snorkeling.
There's 3 beaches. One of them's on the Gulf and 2 of them are on the Atlantic. So you can generally find good weather on every day and a good beach to go to. There's history, as Diane mentioned, the bridge, the Flagler Bridge is amazing. You can walk up on the remnants of it and see the Atlantic on one side, the Gulf on the other, and read. They have nice placards there about the history of the bridge, which was built in 1907, and then a hurricane took it out in 1935. They turned it into a car bridge until 1972, until they built the bridge that's here now. So it's really cool to see the old bridge.
Yeah.
Too. There's a bus that goes all the way to Key West and up to, so it's easy to travel, even if you're on a boat. If you want to go down to see Key West, you can. It's very convenient. And
what we found is you get to know the camp hosts. Most of the hosts here at this site are campers, because this does have a 80-spot campground. So you get to know those folks. You work with them every day, and they're very kind as well. And a lot of them have offered, hey, if we're going to the store, we'll let you know, and we'll bring you in. And we've had that experience as well, or to church or wherever we're going. So
yeah. So are the tasks that you do for your volunteer time any different there than they were at Caladesi?
There's a lot more here on this island. So, and our tasks are definitely more park maintenance. So we've done anything from landscaping to tearing down bottoms of houses, demolition stuff. So a lot of physical work for sure.
Cleaning up
bricks and
cleaning up places.
Yeah. We've not done really much of the beach cleaning. Mostly it's a lot of just physical work, kind of getting the park ready. It takes a lot to run this park.
Selling our house, I thought I'd never use a weed eater again, but I was wrong. I did discover that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that, honestly, because the kind of volunteer work you're doing matters. And you're giving all loopers a really good name by donating this time. Tell us about living aboard at this park. Is it similar or different from where it was outside of
Yeah,
Dunedin?
so Bahia Honda has a main marina, which we stayed at last year. And then right behind that, kind of hidden from view, is a campers marina, which the volunteers stay at too. So we're at a wall. It's a small bay. And you want to come in at a high tide to this one for sure. Because there would be no soft grounding on this one. There's coral or limestone underneath. But we're very secluded here as well. We get a nice breeze. And we're all to ourselves. And it's just nice. The manatees come in here pretty much every day. There's a lot of tarpon and other fish out here in the bay. And it's just really nice.
Yeah, there's more conveniences here for sure. There's showers, we have the showers. We take the bus to go get groceries. And so that's easy, it's not expensive to do that.
And it's a busier park. Caladesi, like I said, 50 people at max at a time come over on a ferry. Here, it's open to car traffic. So people come from Miami or Naples or Key West and visit constantly. Sometimes there's lineup of cars out on the main highway to get in this place. So people love the beaches and they come in regularly. There's a lot more people to talk to, socialization, and thus more volunteers as well. So we've gotten to know a lot of the volunteers and the rangers.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned more volunteers, and that's a big question I have, because obviously there is a lovely bonus to doing this, and that is that you have free dockage in Florida for the period of time you're there. But as you both said, it's a lot of physical work, so it's certainly not for everyone. So do they have enough volunteers? Are there people beating down their doors because of the dockage, or is it, like, I would love to do this, but since I work, I'd struggle to do the volunteer hours. So do they have enough volunteers, or are they really eager for people to come do this?
At Caladesi, they definitely need people for sure. They're eager for people to do that. A lot of people, it's very remote, so it's a little more challenging there. So they definitely would love to get more volunteers. At Bahia, they say that it is they won't let anybody in during hurricane season anyway. So, and during that time, they basically they want you can apply and stuff and go, but it's kind of harder to get in here. This is the first year they've had boat volunteers
for a long time.
So they're just starting that back up to see how that looks. And so they've had another couple was here before us, and then us, and then
I think at Bahia Honda they have a lot more applicants. So they can be a little bit more choosy on who they pick. And if you have any special skills like mechanical or electrical or plumbing or welding, things like that, when you apply, you could mention that, and that would help them choose you over someone else. But Caladesi, they would allow anybody anytime, I think.
They're so excited to have volunteers there. They really did, but they do want 8 weeks. They want that 2-month commitment because they train you. And
sure. So to the best of your knowledge, are these the only 2 Florida state parks that offer these opportunities, or is it prevalent in other places in the state as well?
Yeah, we did a little research, and I really cannot find any others that have a marina that has electric and water that you can stay overnight. There's other ones that you may be able to go volunteer on a daily basis, like Pennicamp or a couple others, but I think there's nowhere to stay, so you'd have to like take off or be on a mooring ball or anchor. So these are the 2 that we know of at this point in Florida.
And it's certainly a unique opportunity and a unique way to spend some time while you're on the boat. If we have whet some people's appetites for looking into this some more, where can they apply or learn more?
Go to floridastateparks.org, their website, and just Google the volunteering tab, and they can apply there. So there's an application process. And after that, when the application gets approved, then there would be some online training. And I would encourage them to contact the lead ranger that they submitted an application and were interested in volunteering. So definitely calling and talking is good. And then they do like an interview.
Right.
Process.
Interview process. But I encourage everybody to try if they're interested and have some time and talents to give.
Yeah, we
Sure.
we definitely love it, and we're, you know, a year's a long time. We'll figure out what we're doing in the next coming year, but right now we're thinking
We hope to
we'd
come
love to
back.
come back to both of these parks.
That's awesome. I love to hear it. I would love to do this one day myself. My head's going, where can I fit in those 24 hours of volunteer time if I'm still working? Maybe I could figure it out, but it just
Right.
sounds like a really fun, unique opportunity to really give back. Because I do understand that it's also hard work. So thank you both for doing this. As I said, you make loopers look good by doing these kinds of things. And you know, both of you are smiling broadly about this whole opportunity. So I can tell it's been, and I know you're both like that all the time, honestly. But I can tell it's been a good experience for you. And just thank you so much for sharing the details.
Yeah.
Thanks for
If
having
anybody
us.
knows of any other opportunities up the East Coast or anywhere else for volunteering, we'd love to hear about it, because we
Yeah.
might be interested.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be looking. So it's been
Perfect.
wonderful.
Thank you both. Safe travels. Hopefully our paths will cross again soon.
So,
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Thanks. And thanks to everyone who's watched this week or listened. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Great Loop Radio podcast. Until then, safe cruising.